Welcome to my master class. I'm excited to enlighten you today. It's just time to say goodbye to the worn out financial advice that has you on a financial roller coaster. So I'm going to give you a simple, clear plan to grow your money safely, protect you against the ravages of unknown future tax liabilities, reduce or eliminate the amount of interest you pay to banks and credit card companies, avoid paying enormous fees that you're currently paying on your investments that are eating up your earnings. Protect yourself from healthcare emergencies that can ruin you financially, and a way you can have a guaranteed income in retirement. And I'll show you how these strategies will beat the pants off your 401k. You will learn how to get income in retirement you can never outlive, tax-free growth on your retirement savings, tax-free income during retirement, protection from stock market downturns, market-like returns, and easy penalty-free access to your money. I'll also introduce you to an amazing retirement plan where a lender will actually match your 5 annual contributions 3-to-1. So just like your employer will match your 401k investment, a bank will match your investment times 3. So be sure to go through the entire course because I've saved the best for last. 81% of Americans don't know how much money they'll need to fund their retirement. So if you stay with me to the very end, you'll receive an offer to apply for a free retirement income analysis where I will show you exactly how much annual income your current retirement plans will produce and how long it will last, based on the income you'll be requiring during retirement. If there are any gaps, we'll talk about how to fill those gaps so you can rest assured you are on track. Retirement should be a mirror of a life well lived. It should be a time when people get to enjoy their family, pursue their hobbies, and travel. But unfortunately for too many of us, retirement is a time of worry, fear, and anxiety. Do you know that the number one response of people surveyed say they fear running out of money during retirement more than they fear death? And 52% of working Americans will be unable to maintain their standard of living in retirement. I don't want you to be a statistic. So let me start by just going over a few issues affecting your retirement. And I'll start with stock market losses.
The first rule in investment is don't lose. And the second rule in investment is don't forget the first rule. And that's all the rules there are.
Rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. But we all know another market crash is coming, yet we don't take action. Ideally, your investments should never lose money. But history tells us that in any given year, there is about a 30% chance that the S&P will end in the red. And we also know that a market correction happens roughly every 10 years. Your financial advisor will tell you, don't worry, keep investing. If you just hold on, your money will come back. And he tells you that because he makes money on your money, whether you win or lose. I hate to break it to you, but when you lose money in the market, that money is gone and it's not coming back. If you lose 50% of your investment, you actually need to make 100% in order to break even. And in 2008, investors lost up to 40%. The question is, how much more money would you have today if you hadn't lost the initial principal in the first place? And it took 5 years for the market to recover in the last recession, and something like 22 to 25 years in the Great Depression. This is what happens when you know what's going to happen, but you do nothing until you just can't stand it anymore, and you lock in your losses. It's just human behavior. If you're not convinced we're on the verge of another market crash, look at this chart from 1980 to 2020. The blue line is the market, and the blood red is investors with negative credit balances. These are people borrowing money on margin and inflating the market. And what happened each time when that got too extreme? A crash. A crash. And now look where we are today. We have more credit being extended than ever before in history. Not to mention what COVID has done to our economy. Why go through all the stress and anxiety and devastation when there are incredibly effective wealth-building strategies that only the ultra-wealthy use, but the middle class gets brainwashed into following the same status quo with qualified plans like 401ks? Fees. Tony Robbins realized that the 401k plan his company had was loaded with fees, so he took matters into his own hands.
Since the 401k first came into existence in the early 1980s, it's become the retirement plan of choice for all companies, big and small. Today, there's over $3.5 trillion in 401k plans, and really they're the largest profit center, one of them, for major insurance, payroll, and Wall Street firms. So by now, you'd think with decades of compounding, those baby boomers would be financially set. But we all know that's far from the truth. Why? Because there's a hole in your investment bucket and it's draining your financial future. What is it? Well, Vanguard's founder, John Bogle, who's been one of the most respected investment professionals for almost 60 years, calls the problem the tyranny of compounding fees. Your fees are eating you alive. Ironically, according to a recent study by the AARP, 8 out of 10 people don't know the cost of their plan, and 70% of those participants believe they're actually paying no investment costs for the 401k. The startling truth is that you couldn't be further from the truth. 10 to 15 times more can be spent by one person compared to their neighbor right next door for the same fundamental product with no additional value. Now you gotta say, how is that possible? Well, so much of what you pay is buried in the fine print. The language is so confusing, it almost requires a foreign language to understand. Revenue sharing, expense ratios, wrap fees, soft dollar costs, transaction costs, account charges, redemption fees, deferred sales charges. There are more than 17 total fees that can be stacked up, all in that fine print. Consider this. Most plans are constructed by actively managed mutual funds. In other words, these are people, they're funds that are trying to beat the stock market. But in the last 10 years, only 4% of all the 8,500 plus mutual funds have ever been able to beat the market. And in any 10-year period, it's a different 4%. That means 96% of them failed. And if you look at the numbers over the last 15 years, it's the same 96%. Different people, same ratio. So think about this. Mutual funds really have an average expense ratio today of 1.5% or higher. Compare that to a plan that was constructed with low-cost index funds that match the market. So they're 96% more effective than virtually all of the mutual funds, but the average expense is 0.14. That's 14 basis points. If you hear those numbers and it's confusing, think of it this way. If you're investing $100 in a fund like that, it costs you 14 cents. On the average fund, it's $1.50. That doesn't sound like that, but it's 1,000% difference in fees, and those fees compound every year as you reinvest. See, ignorance is not bliss, and what you don't know in the financial area will hurt you. A Forbes recent article says that the total cost on average is 3.1%, while some of these funds are as much as 4.6%. So what does it mean to you? How much of an impact do fees really have on your future? People have no sense of the reality. According to Bloomberg, if you have a lifetime of investing, you can say basically goodbye to half of your investment nest egg in fees. John Bogle, the founder of Vanguard, again, is even more direct. He says, imagine that you're in a business where you put up all the money, you take all the risk. If you lose, you lose. But your investment partner, the person just handling the funds for you, gets up to 70% of your profits over the lifetime of your investing. See, minimizing fees could mean the difference between ability to retire or not. It could save you, by minimizing fees, a full decade. You could retire a full decade sooner. I'll give you an example. Take two neighbors. Let's say they both are side by side, live on the same street. One is in an average fund at 3.1% that Forbes talks about, and one is in a low-cost fund, the best possible, 0.414, the 14 basis points. What's the impact? Well, if they invest $5,000 a year, every year, and they get an 8% return over their investment lifetime, one ends up with $1.4 million, the other is $619,000. That's 100% difference.
And you got to wonder, how many tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars have you lost in fees so far? All right, so the United States government has been campaigning for decades to convince us to defer all of our taxes to retirement. Now, that just doesn't make financial sense. And I'll show you why. And the U.S. is facing the worst economic downturn since the Great Depression. So you have to wonder, how the heck is our government going to pay for all the trillions of dollars in stimulus checks and bailouts, not to mention double-digit unemployment numbers, and the national debt is out of control? How are they going to pay for that? By raising taxes, of course. In 2009, former U.S. Comptroller General David M. Walker wrote a CNN op-ed entitled "Why Your Taxes Could Double." He laid out the case that sooner or later taxes will have to double if our country is going to avoid bankruptcy. And the Congressional Budget Office reported in 2008 that if Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid go unchanged, the lowest tax bracket would increase 2.5 times. Keep in mind that was 2008 and 2009, before COVID-19 and its effects on our economy. But to put today's tax rates into perspective, the top marginal income tax rate in 1960 was 91%. And it wasn't until the 1980s, after President Reagan took office, that rates came down below 70% for that top tax bracket. It was also during this time that the traditional 401k was first made available, bringing tax deferral to the forefront of personal finance. At the time, with taxes high and debt low, deferral made sense. Retirement is when we need our money the most. But if you have most of your retirement savings in a 401k, 403b, or IRA, you are deferring all your taxes to retirement, and you'll be taxed at a much higher rate. Seriously, whose retirement are you planning? Yours or Uncle Sam's? Think about how that would devastate your retirement if you were planning on deferring all of your taxes to the day you retire, and then finding out you have to pay 2.5 times more than you would have had you just paid while you were working. How would that impact you? So it's no wonder taxes are your single biggest retirement risk. When you think of taxes, ask yourself this question: would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? If you were a farmer, would you rather pay taxes on the seed or the harvest? The same can be said for all of us as we plan for retirement. We start with a seed, watch it grow over time, and then we enter retirement with the intent of reaping the bounties of our growth, only to find out that the IRS has a bite to a large part of it. With a qualified plan like your IRA or 401k accounts, you are deferring all of your taxes until retirement. On top of paying much higher taxes on that money in retirement, your money will actually be taxed twice when you die. Once on the money left in your account, death tax, and again when your beneficiary receives the leftovers as income, inheritance tax. And then we have 10,000 baby boomers retiring every single day who are taking Social Security and Medicare. Social Security is projected to become insolvent in 2035. Medicare will run out of money in 2026, and Medicaid in 2028. And when Social Security was created in 1935, there were 42 people contributing for every one person drawing benefits. Now there are 3 people for every one, and guess what? When Social Security was created, they set the benefit age at 65. Any guess what the average lifespan was at the time they created Social Security? 62. So basically, they were counting on almost everyone dying before they even got to the age of using Social Security. And now it's transformed into this program that almost everybody uses and lives on for 20 to 30 years. And nobody wants it to go away. People aren't planning for failing physical and mental health in their retirement plans. According to AARP, 2/3 of today's seniors will require long-term care at some point in their lives. The odds of your house burning down in your lifetime is 3%. And that would be a huge loss, but your homeowner's insurance would cover that. The odds of a car accident are 18%. But again, your auto insurance would take care of that. What would happen if you needed full-time care to help you live your life? What would that cost? Well, do you know that the odds of you needing long-term care between now and when you die are 72%? However, less than 30% of Americans have long-term care insurance to protect themselves. So we want to solve all these issues, and you can with the retirement savings options I'm going to cover. Now, the options I will go into are fixed and indexed annuities, indexed universal life insurance contracts, and that really exciting program I talked to you about where a lender will match your 5 annual contributions 3-to-1. And that program is called Kaizen. Now, the reason these products have had a bad reputation, or maybe you even have never heard of them before, is because of bad agents.
Michael, one day all this will be yours.
This?
See this junker? I paid $100 for her. She's got 120,000 miles on her. Transmission shot, bumpers have fallen off. What do I do with her? I sell her. We really should weld these bumpers on, but that takes time, equipment, money. So, we use super glue instead. Go ahead, put it on there.
Won't it fall off?
Definitely.
Isn't that dangerous?
Not to me, okay? Transmission. The sawdust quiets the gears and lets the engine run as sweet as a nut for a couple of miles.
Daddy, that's cheating.
Of course it's cheating. Nobody ever got rich being honest.
So you gotta be careful. I mean, these people are everywhere. You can't tell a book by its cover. Bad agents and financial advisors don't necessarily look that part. All right, so what the heck is indexed universal life insurance? Well, first of all, you'll also hear it referred to as an IUL for short. But to me, an IUL is just magic and outperforms your 401k in so many ways, and I'll show you how. IUL will give you tax-free growth on your retirement savings, tax-free income in retirement, protection from stock market crashes, market-like returns, easy penalty-free access to your retirement savings, and the ability to act as your own financing company for major purchases and investments. Before I start addressing what indexed universal life insurance is, it's important you understand what indexing is, since this is an indexed product. With indexing, you choose an index like the S&P 500. Your money is not invested in the index, but you get the return based on the movement of the index. Your money grows however the index performs, up to a limit or a cap, for example, 12%. Now, if the market grows 15%, your money will only grow up to the 12% cap. But the trade-off is complete downside protection from market losses. So just like you would have a cap, you would also have a floor of 0. So the worst thing that could happen is you get 0 interest in market downturns. In other words, you lose nothing, ever. Would you rather be invested in the red line or the green line? The red line is the market strategy, or the S&P 500, your 401k, 403b, or your IRA. And the green line is the index strategy, where you make market-like returns, but you're protected from stock market downturns. This is a comparison of the market strategy and the indexing strategy. At a 12.5% cap with a $100,000 balance, over the last 20 years, if you would have just gone to sleep and put your money into an S&P 500 index, you'd have $153,000 more in your account with a cap and a floor than you would just writing it out. There are 3 vehicles available to get a tax-free income in retirement: a Roth IRA, municipal bonds, and permanent life insurance. In this case, in the form of fixed or indexed universal life insurance contracts. The differences between the 3 are risk, contribution limits, age restrictions, returns, how your money grows, income, required minimum distributions, or RMDs, fees, funding, access to your money, death benefits, and living benefits. An IUL contract has no risk to stock market downturns because it's an index product with a ceiling and a floor, so 0 risk. No annual contribution limits, no age restrictions, easy and penalty-free access to your money, market-like returns, your money grows tax-free, you get a tax-free retirement income, no required minimum distributions, you get a death benefit and living benefits, and limited fees only if it is structured properly. And by saying that, you really do have to be careful because, first of all, very few agents are trained on how to structure these innovative policies to optimize the growth of your money. Or they do, and they'll actually structure these policies to optimize not your money, but their commission. So be very careful. Now, unlike an annuity, you cannot roll over a 401k or any other qualified money into this account unless you pay the taxes on your qualified funds first. Because this is a life insurance policy, you have access to the death benefit tax-free while you're alive in the event you have a critical or terminal illness or you're diagnosed as chronically ill. You can receive a portion of the death benefit while you were living to pay for long-term care expenses. So you would commit to a monthly or annual premium. And if you want to supercharge your policy, you can contribute a lump sum up front. IULs require between 12 to 15 years to hold a reasonable cash value. You may be asked to complete a health examination as part of the application process with the IUL. One of the key benefits to owning a universal life insurance policy is the ability to access funds from your policy's cash value without having to pay taxes on it. If you have or are thinking about buying an index universal life insurance policy, it's important to understand the different kinds of loans and how they work. So let's get into it. There are 2 different types of universal life insurance loans. There are fixed loans, which are also referred to as standard loans, and participating loans. A fixed loan is the most conservative type of loan. It also has the lowest income potential, and it's used in whole life policies. In the first 10 policy years, a standard loan is available. And after the first 10 years, you are automatically going to be put into a wash loan, or they'll charge you a certain percent on the loan, but they'll credit you that exact same percent on the loan, thus a wash. It is a non-participating loan because your money is no longer participating in the growth, but just earning the declared interest rate. With a fixed loan, when you take a loan, there are 3 different accounts involved: your life insurance company account, your insurance policy and the accumulation value, and your personal bank account. So money goes directly from the life insurance carrier account straight into your bank account. Then the carrier places a lien, for all intents and purposes, against the life insurance policy to back the loan. Now, with a fixed loan, there is one more account, and that is the fixed rate bucket, we'll call it. They're going to take whatever the value of the loan is out of your policy accumulation value and put it into this fixed rate bucket. And now your money is no longer participating in growth. It is just earning the declared interest rate, which is laid out in your contract. Now, a participating loan is used with Index Universal Life. They're the most common loan. You can have a fixed or a variable loan. And the fixed loan is safer than the variable type. Now, with participating loans, you have the same 3 accounts that you do with the fixed loan. But the difference is your money never leaves your policy account. It continues to earn interest. So you earn money on the money you loan yourself. Now, you're charged interest for taking that money out, but the interest you're getting on that money more than offsets the charge. And you'll see that reflected in your cash value. The value of the loan is deducted from your accumulation value, but your accumulation value stays the same. Now, how does it work when you're taking distributions as tax-free retirement income? Unlike traditional loans, an IUL policy loan does not have to be repaid. The death benefit is simply reduced by the amount of the outstanding balance. And you're probably thinking, well, this is just too good to be true. But the death benefit and the related features are the guarantee that is backed by the claims paying ability of the underlying insurance company. All that being said, it's important to note that IUL policy loans and withdrawals will reduce the available cash value and death benefit. And if you withdraw your money as a partial surrender instead of taking a loan, you are taxed and subject to a surrender charge. And if you take that before the age of 59 and a half, you'll have to add a 10% federal tax or early withdrawal penalty on top of that. Also, additional premium payments may be required to keep the policy in force. Let's say you have $100,000 in cash value in your policy, and you decide to take out a $20,000 policy loan to buy a new car. Let's say the insurance company charges you 5% on the loan, and the market went up 10%. That loan didn't cost you anything. You actually made 5% on the money you loaned yourself. So let's compare income from your 401k versus an IUL. Take a 65-year-old whose annual income was $97,000 while he was working, and he wants to maintain that same income in retirement. With a 401k, he has $858,000 in retirement savings. He withdraws $129,340, knowing he'll have to pay $32,335 in taxes on that withdrawal in order to get to his $97,000 income. This poor guy will run out of money in 9 years at the age of 74. The 65-year-old with the IUL has $709,000 in retirement savings. He takes his $97,000 annual income tax-free and has an $864,000 life insurance death benefit. If he dies at age 100, he would have received $3,395,000, and his family receives $3,036,000 in death benefit, both free of income tax. More than 3,000 big banks and 85% of Fortune 500 companies buy cash value life insurance by the hundreds of billions in assets as part of their Tier 1 capital, which is the safest money they have. But it also has to be liquid, give them solid growth, and they're not going to lose it in a market downturn. JCPenney used cash value life insurance during the Depression to keep his company afloat, Ray Kroc used it during the expansion years at McDonald's to cover payroll when sales were low and his franchisee fees weren't covering it. And Walt Disney used it to purchase the land that Disneyland is on today. This is a proven strategy that has only gotten better over the years, and the fees and the costs are so much lower than they used to be. So you don't have to be a millionaire anymore to use it. Now, we're going to get into the guts of the proper way to structure an IUL for maximum cash accumulation. There are two ways you can structure these. The traditional way, which has a really bad reputation because of high fees, high costs, and high commissions. Traditionally, they were sold as a very expensive insurance policy that made agents big commissions. So as you can see, the bulk of your money here goes to insurance costs, and your cash value is minimized. The death benefit is what drives the fees, commissions, and the cost of the policy higher. There are some stark differences between the traditional way and what can actually be done if you know what you're doing. You flip this concept upside down. You maximize the cash value in your IUL and you minimize the insurance cost. Structured this way, it reduces the administrative costs for your insurance because your death benefit is lower. So the commissions paid to an insurance agent are lower. So when you hear Dave Ramsey, Susie Orman, your financial advisor or CPA or brother-in-law saying these policies are expensive and not a good investment, they're talking about the red bucket over there. So let me give you a hypothetical situation of a 45-year-old man putting in $20,000 a year. I'm going to pull back the curtain and show you how the same amount of money going in can have a dramatic difference in your retirement cash flow and the commission your insurance agent would make. If you were to use a typical structure like the red bucket with a level death benefit and no cash optimization, and this 45-year-old man is putting in $20,000 per year for 21 years, at age 65, he's going to have $523,000 of cash value, a $1.5 million death benefit throughout the life of the contract, and the agent who sells that is going to make a $27,000 commission. So the guy's putting in 20, and the agent's making 27. That's a pretty good size commission, right? So this is the way these policies were traditionally structured. Very few agents know how to structure an IUL for maximum cash accumulation. You can use cash maximization and still use a level death benefit, and it improves your cash value significantly. Now get this. You lowered your death benefit by $500,000, and look what that did to your cash value. It increased it by $141,532. Did you put any more money into this? Nope. Same amount of money, different structure. And look at what the agent gave up in order to give you $141,000. That's about $8,000. So doing it this way, it cost the agent $8, but made you $141. Do you think it's right for an agent to cost you $141,000 in order to put another $8,000 in his own pocket? No, and I don't either. It's criminal as far as I'm concerned, and that's why I don't build these policies this way. Now, there's one more thing you can do if you know what you're doing, and that is to use an increasing death benefit. And this is where it gets extremely efficient. You start with the lowest death benefit the IRS will allow, and you step it up each year as your cash value grows. This drops the death benefit another $644,000. So from the first to the third, we dropped $1.1 million off the death benefit, and look what it has done to the agent's commission. It's cut the commission $20,000 overall. Let's see what it does to your cash value. So you've gone from $523,000 to $811,000. That's almost $300,000. And again, Did you put any more money into this policy? What's the only difference? Well, it's using somebody who structured it right and knows what they're doing. So to wrap it up, the benefits are undeniable. It is best for people who are 15 to 20 years from retirement. Your money grows tax-free, and it is distributed to you in retirement tax-free. There is zero risk to stock market downturns. There's no age or contribution limits. You have penalty-free access to your money through participating loans, where you can finance your own big-ticket items. You get market-like returns and have a death benefit with living benefits in case you were to have a heart attack, stroke, or, God forbid, something happened to you. But most importantly, an IUL needs to be structured properly, or it will be an expensive life insurance policy with the agent laughing all the way to the bank.